In the shimmering Venetian lagoon, where gondolas glide effortlessly past ancient facades and the whispers of history echo through narrow canals, lies a place far removed from the charm of Venice. This place is Poveglia, an island so infamous that even the most adventurous travelers shun its shores. Its very name carries a chill, a reminder of centuries of tragedy, death, and despair. For locals, it is not a destination, but a warning, a cursed land where the living and the dead coexist uneasily. The story of Poveglia begins like many others in Venice's rich tapestry of history. In its early days, the island thrived as a small fishing community. Families lived in modest homes, children played along the shore, and fishermen cast their nets into the lagoon. But its tranquility was shattered in the 14th century, when the Black Death swept across Europe with merciless ferocity. Venice, a bustling hub of trade and travel, was particularly vulnerable. As the plague ravaged its population, the city's leaders made a fateful decision. Poveglia would become a quarantine station. Boats carrying the infected were sent to the island under cover of night, their passengers stripped of hope. Once they landed on Poveglia, there was no escape. Those who were gravely ill lay in agony under the open sky, their cries for mercy unanswered. Corpses piled up faster than they could be buried, the rotting bodies feeding the island's soil with death. In desperation, the Venetians resorted to fire, burning the dead and sometimes the dying in enormous pyres. The air thickened with ash and the acrid smell of human remains. Survivors said the island itself seemed to change, the ground darkened and infused with sorrow, the soil enriched by the remains of tens of thousands. Generations later, the island was abandoned. The grass grew wild, the trees stretched skyward, and silence reclaimed Poveglia. For a time, it was as if the island had been forgotten, a relic of a dark chapter in Venetian history. But history has a way of haunting the present, and Poveglia's story was far from over. In the late 18th century, the island was repurposed as a mental asylum. Its isolated location made it the perfect place to house those deemed undesirable by society. The mentally ill, the misunderstood, and the unwanted were sent there to languish in obscurity. The asylum's architecture was imposing, its thick stone walls meant to contain both patients and the island's macabre legacy. Yet it soon became clear that the island's curse extended to its new inhabitants. Patients began reporting strange occurrences. They spoke of shadowy figures moving through the halls at night, of cold hands brushing against their skin when no one was near. Some claimed to hear weeping, not from their fellow inmates but from unseen entities. One particularly lucid patient described a woman in black who appeared at his bedside, her face shrouded but her presence suffocating. The asylum staff dismissed these accounts as the ramblings of disturbed minds, but even the most skeptical could not ignore the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to permeate the island. Among the staff was a doctor whose name has been lost to history but whose actions remain infamous. Driven by a twisted sense of curiosity, he subjected patients to barbaric treatments. Lobotomies were performed with rudimentary tools, hammers, nails, and drills, turning human beings into hollow shells. Screams echoed from the asylum's upper floors, mixing with the cries of the island's spectral inhabitants. It is said that the doctor himself began to unravel, tormented by the very spirits of those he had mutilated. One night, overcome with madness, he climbed the bell tower and threw himself to his death. Witnesses claimed to hear his agonized screams continue long after his body lay broken on the ground. By the mid-20th century, the asylum was closed, its doors locked, and its halls left to decay. Yet Poveglia was not at peace. Fishermen who ventured too close to its shores reported strange sensations, as if unseen eyes were watching them. Some spoke of ghostly figures moving among the ruins, their forms faint but unmistakable. Others described hearing whispers carried on the wind, whispers that seemed to call their names. In the decades that followed, Poveglia became a magnet for the curious and the brave. Urban explorers and paranormal investigators sneaked onto the island, armed with cameras and recording equipment. What they found only deepened the island's mystique. Footsteps echoed through empty corridors, doors slammed shut without explanation, and strange voices were captured on tape. One group claimed to have seen the figure of a man standing on the bell tower, his silhouette stark against the night sky. When they called out to him, he vanished. Not all who ventured to Poveglia returned unscathed. Some spoke of a heavy presence, an overwhelming sense of dread that clung to them even after they left the island. One visitor reported vivid nightmares of burning bodies and hollow-eyed figures reaching for him. Others fell ill, their symptoms defying medical explanation. In 2014, the Italian government attempted to auction off Poveglia. The winning bidder, a businessman with grand plans to transform the island into a luxury resort, abandoned the project within months. Officially, logistical challenges were to blame, but whispers persisted that the island itself resisted the intrusion. Workers reported tools disappearing, strange sounds emanating from the ruins, and an unshakable sense that they were not alone. Today, Poveglia stands as a monument to human suffering, its crumbling buildings consumed by vines and its soil still blackened by centuries of death. The island is silent, but it is not empty. Those who dare to visit speak of an unrelenting heaviness, a feeling that the past is ever present. Skeptics dismiss the tales as superstition, the product of overactive imaginations fueled by centuries of dark history. But for those who have stood on its shores, there is no doubt. Poveglia is alive with the echoes of its tormented past. Perhaps the island serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the weight of unresolved history. Or perhaps it is a warning, a testament to the horrors that linger when the dead are left restless. Whatever the truth, Poveglia remains a place where the line between the living and the dead blurs, a cursed land that continues to guard its secrets.